Chi Yao, I treat you like a beloved, why do you want to kill me? Zhang Ruochen roared, wanted to pounce forward, and pressed the gilded bed, creak, and sat up suddenly. Finding out that it was just a dream, Zhang Ruochen let out a long breath and wiped the sweat beads on his forehead with his sleeve. That's not a dream. Everything that happened to him and Princess Chi Yao, how could it be a dream? Zhang Ruochen was originally the only son of Emperor Ming, one of the 9 emperors of the Kunlun realm, and at the age of 16, he cultivated to the great perfection of the heavenly extreme realm with his anti-heaven physique. However, when he became the first person of the younger generation in the Kunlun world, he died in the hands of his childhood sweetheart, Princess Chi Yao. Princess Chi Yao is the daughter of the Blue Emperor, one of the 9 great emperors. Emperor Ming and Emperor Qing are the best friends. Zhang Ruochen and Princess Chi Yao are even more married. They grew up together since childhood, and practiced together. One is heroic, the other is beautiful, and he can be called a golden boy and a girl, which could have become a good story in the cultivation world. Zhang Ruochen never expected that Princess Chi Yao would actually make a move on him. After dying at the hands of Princess Chi Yao, when Zhang Ruochen woke up again, he found that he was already 800 years later. The former Princess Chi Yao quelled the rebellion of the 9 emperors, unified the 9 kingdoms, established the first central empire, and became the master of the entire Kunlun realm, Empress Chi Yao. 800 years ago, the 9 emperors, who dominated the Kunlun realm, completely became a thing of the past and disappeared in the long river of history. The 9 emperors are dead, and the empress should be established. In this era, there is only one emperor, and that is Empress Chi Yao, who rules the world and is powerful in all directions. Did she kill me? How can her heart be so ruthless? Or is it that a woman's heart is so 800 years have passed, and it has long been a vicissitudes of life, things are not people, except for the peerless Empress Chi Yao, who is still young, immortal and immortal. All the old people have turned into loess and bones. Even the majestic 9 emperors of the year are all extinct in the world, leaving only a glorious story that will be recited by future generations for a long time. Squeak. A beautiful woman in palace clothes with a weak body pushed the door from the outside and walked in, looking at Zhang Ruochen sitting on the bed, with a concerned look. Chenur, are you having a nightmare again? The beautiful woman in front of her is the princess of the king of Yunwu County, and she is also Zhang Ruochen's mother-in-law, concubine Lin. Original owner of this body died of illness on the bed 3 days ago because of his frailty. After Zhang Ruochen was killed by Princess Chi Yao, he woke up again and appeared in this body, bringing the young man who had died of illness back to life. What's even more coincidental is that the original owner of this body is also called Zhang Ruochen. When Zhang Ruochen just woke up, he was still very repulsive to concubine Lin. After all, in Zhang Ruochen's eyes, concubine Lin is just a stranger. However, after 3 days of contact, Zhang Ruochen gradually discovered that concubine Lin really cared about him very much, and she was so attentive that she saw Zhang Ruochen waking up from a nightmare, and she immediately rushed to Zhang Ruochen's room regardless of the cold. In his last life, Zhang Ruochen had never met his biological mother. It is said that she died when she was born. Unexpectedly, after being killed by Princess Chi Yao, being reborn in this body actually made him have an extra mother and feel the warmth of maternal love. Maybe she didn't know that her dust died of illness 3 days ago. If she were told the truth, she might not be able to withstand the shock. Zhang Ruochen looked at the beautiful woman in front of him, his eyes softened, and he smiled slightly. Mother, don't worry about me, it's just a dream. Concubine Lin's thin body was draped in a jujube red-hooded mink fur, sitting on the edge of Zhang Ruochen's bed, stroking Zhang Ruochen's forehead, and said worriedly, it's been 3 nights, and you always wake up with nightmares, and every time you call the name, Chi Yao. Who the hell is she? Is naturally impossible for concubine Lin to associate the name, Chi Yao, with the Empress. First Central Empire. Moreover, after Empress Chi Yao unified the Kunlun realm and established the First Central Empire, she was known as the great and virtuous female holy emperor, and no one dared to mention the word Chi Yao at all. Will commit taboos. Zhang Ruochen said, "It's nothing, mother, you heard it wrong." Quote. Concubine Lin sighed and said, "In the future, don't call the word Chi Yao again, even in a dream, that's the empress's name." Quote. It is disrespectful to call the empress by her first name, and if it is heard by someone who cares, she will be put to death. Quote. Zhang Ruochen nodded, pinched his fingers tightly, and said meaningfully, "Absolutely not." Quote. From now on. Quote. From now on, I will be her nightmare. Concubine Lin looked at Zhang Ruochen, who was thin and pale, and sighed softly. Her heart was extremely sour. Although he was born in the family of the county king, he has been frail and sickly since he was a child. He is 16 years old, and he can only lie in bed all year round. I am afraid that this life can only be like this. Outside, there was a sound of messy footsteps. What are you doing? This is the Jade Palace. Who gave you the courage to dare to break in at will? Quote. A delicate-looking maid wanted to stop the 8th prince who broke in, but was gently pushed by the 8th prince and fell more than 10 meters away. The 8th prince is a martial artist, and when he cultivates to reach the late stage of the yellow extreme realm, he can strike out with one palm, which is enough to knock out a stone plate weighing 300 catties 10 jong away, not to mention just a maid weighing 10 catties. With a flick of his finger, he can bounce her out. The maid screamed and fell to the ground, breaking her left arm. The 8th prince was dressed in a golden silk robe, with a jade belt wrapped around his waist. His body was strong, his arms were slender, and his steps were steady. He walked into the Jade Shoe Palace and stared at the maid with cold eyes. A slave maid dares to stand in the way of this prince, it is really looking for death. Quote. Behind the 8th prince, followed by 6 guards wearing linskin armor, with tall bodies and backs, they were obviously all powerful martial arts monks who belonged to the palace. Concubine Lin heard the movement outside and calmed Zhang Ruochen's emotions, then closed the door and walked out. She stared at the 8th prince standing outside, frowned slightly, and said, "Your Royal Highness the 8th prince, this is the Jade Shoe Palace, even if you are a prince, you can't break in." The 8th prince, Zhang Ji, raised his head and stared at Concubine Lin, and said loudly, "The queen has an order, and the dormitory of Concubine Lin and the 9th brother has been changed to the Ze Partial Palace. In the future, the owner of the Jade Shoe Palace will be the biological mother of this prince, Concubine Xiao." Concubine Lin's face changed slightly. She had long expected that this day would come, but she didn't expect it to come so soon. Concubine Lin smiled miserably and said, "The queen is about to drive our mother and son away. Did you open the Jade Palace?" "All right. Tomorrow, I will move with Chenur to the side hall." The 8th prince said, "I'm sorry. My mother said that she wanted to settle in Yushu Palace tonight. Please move to the side hall now." Concubine Lin knew that Zhang Ruochen was weak and sickly and couldn't stand the toss, so with a somewhat pleading tone, she said, "Your Royal Highness the 8th prince, you also know that your 9th brother is frail and sickly, the night is late, and the weather is cold, in case it." The 8th prince smiled coldly and said unceremoniously, "Concubine Lin, there are many poor people in this world, but not everyone deserves pity. Since the 9th brother is frail and sickly, what are you still doing in the world? He's your 9th brother." Concubine Lin wanted to say something more, but suddenly, the door behind her was pushed open. Zhang Ruochen's body was weak, and he could barely stand with his hands supporting the doorpost, staring at the 8th prince not far away. His seemingly weak body, as if containing an unyielding will, said, "Don't ask them, we'll move out now. Chenur, why did you get out of bed? It's cold outside, so don't go back soon." Concubine Lin hurriedly stepped forward to support Zhang Ruochen, for fear that he would catch the cold. Zhang Ruochen shook his head stubbornly and said, "Mother, we don't need to ask anyone, sooner or later. We will come back here." Concubine Lin looked at Zhang Ruochen's firm eyes, and seemed to be infected by his emotions, and nodded with tears in her eyes. Concubine Lin and Shen helped Zhang Ruochen and walked out of the Yushu Palace step by step, except for the maid who was pushed out by the 8th prince with a palm and broke her arm. The other servants did not follow them out of the Jade Palace. Can see that concubine Lin and the ninth prince have completely lost power, and originally, they were the servants of the Yushu Palace, but now they naturally chose to stay in the Yushu Palace, and they all went to please the new master of the eighth prince. Zi's partial hall, which is generally the place where the princess who has fallen out of favor lives, is very remote, full of fallen leaves, and it seems that no one has lived in it for a long time. The night was deep, and the wind was cold. Sitting on the cold stone bench, Zhang Ruochen's thin body was wrapped in a coat, but he still felt cold. This physical body is too weak, and only by cultivating martial arts can the body gradually become stronger. Otherwise, even if I am now the son of the king of the county, I will still be at the mercy of others. Quote. Zhang Ruochen thought secretly in his heart. 800 years have passed, and Zhang Ruochen doesn't know where he can go now. Since God arranged for him to be reborn in this body, whether it is for revenge on Empress Chi Yao in the future, or for the mother who takes care of him meticulously, he must be strong. The humiliation and cold treatment I have suffered today are all because I am too weak to resist, unable to control my own destiny, and even the place where I live has been forcibly occupied by others. If you want to be respected by others and have a warm and comfortable living environment, you must become a martial artist and prove your ability. In the Kunlun realm, if you want to become a martial artist, you must first open the divine martial seal. The so-called divine martial seal is the qualification given to human beings by the gods to cultivate martial arts. A person who does not open the divine martial seal will never be able to cultivate his true chi and become a powerhouse between heaven and earth. Zhang Ruochen is already 16 years old, and he still hasn't opened the Shenwu mark after the age of 16. He missed the best age for martial arts cultivation, and even if he opened the Shenwu seal, he could not achieve much. They are also the sons of the king of Yunwu County. Why can the eighth prince be superior? Can Zhang Ruochen and concubine Lin be driven out of the Yushu Palace? Is because the eighth prince opened the divine martial mark when he was 10 years old, now a young martial artist in the late stage of the yellow extreme realm. As long as I open the divine martial mark, I will be able to cultivate the Nine Heavens Ming Emperor Sutra. With the subtlety of the Nine Heavens Ming Emperor Sutra, even if I have missed the best cultivation age, it is still possible to catch up with other geniuses and become a martial arts powerhouse again. Quote. Nine Heavens Ming Emperor Sutra is the supreme treasure of Emperor Ming's cultivation. Except for Emperor Ming, only Zhang Ruochen knows the complete cultivation method of Nine Heavens Ming Emperor Sutra. Tomorrow is the sacrificial ceremony. I hope to get the approval of the gods and open the Shenwu seal. Zhang Ruochen clenched his fists, full of desire to open the divine martial seal. After concubine Lin cleaned up the room, she came over to support Zhang Ruochen. Chanur, you should rest early. Quote. Tomorrow, I have to go to the sacrifice ceremony. Quote. Mother, don't worry, I will definitely be able to open the Shenwu seal tomorrow. Quote. Zhang Ruochen said. Mother believes in you. Quote. In fact, she didn't have any hope at all for Zhang Ruochen to open the Shenwu mark. After all, Zhang Ruochen was already 16 years old, and after the age of 16, it was almost impossible to open the Shenwu mark. The country where Zhang Ruochen is now located is called Yunwu County, which is only one of the thousands of counties in the eastern region of Kunlun. The so-called county state is actually the first county of the First Central Empire, and it must pay tribute and pay taxes to the First Central Empire every year. The king of the county is called the king of the county. Zhang Ruochen's current identity is the ninth son of the king of Yunwu County. Lying flat on the cold, hard wooden bed, Zhang Ruochen was still thinking about tomorrow's sacrifice ceremony. The original owner of this body didn't even open the divine martial mark until he was 16 years old, and he must have been abandoned by the gods. What can I do to have a greater chance of opening the divine martial seal? Quote. In the Kunlun realm, if you want to open the Shenwu seal, you must get the approval of the gods. It is called the divine right of martial arts. During the sacrificial ceremony, there will be a heaven and earth divine bridge between the divine realm and the Kunlun realm, connecting the two worlds. After enjoying the sacrifices, the gods will give some gifted human beings the divine martial mark to help them open the door to cultivation. The more talented a person is, the sooner they can get the Shenwu mark. In Zhang Ruochen's last life, when he was still in the womb, he turned on the Shenwu mark, which can be described as a natural genius. In this life, when he was 16 years old, he didn't even open the divine martial mark, and he was basically a person who was abandoned by the gods. Even if you participate in the sacrificial ceremony tomorrow, it will be almost impossible to obtain the Shenwu mark. Zhang Ruochen couldn't sleep, sat up from the bed, and held a white spar in the shape of a jujube kernel in his hand, with sharp ends and three-dimensional in the middle, crystal clear, without the slightest impurity. He began to study this white spar. Perhaps it could help him get the approval of a certain god, and open the Shenwu seal. This white spar was a gift from Emperor Ming to him at his 16-year-old coming of age ceremony. Zhang Ruochen didn't know what this white spar was, but he just wore it close to his body. Unexpectedly, 800 years later, it is still on its own. I'm going to go from 800 years ago to 800 years from now, maybe it has something to do. Zhang Ruochen squeezed the white spar tightly, closed his eyes, and the figure of his father Emperor Ming appeared in his mind, and he didn't know if his father was still alive in the world. That night, it snowed heavily in the royal city. In the early morning of the next day, the entire royal city was covered with thick snow, and the vermilion palaces, pavilions were all wrapped in a layer of ice sculpture snow clothing. Winter solstice, the coldest day of the year. The warriors of the entire royal city gathered outside the ancestral hall of the emperors, and under the leadership of the county king, they sacrificed to the gods. Outside the ancestral hall of the emperors, an ancient altar is piled with huge stones. On the altar, there are not only tens of thousands of livestock, cattle, sheep, pigs, but also many powerful beasts locked with iron chains. Civil and military officials, martial arts monks, princes and concubines, countless teenagers and girls waiting to open the Shenwu mark, and even some babies who are still in swaddling clothes. This is a national ceremony, not only in the royal city, but also in every city, every town, and every village in Yunwu County. Whoa, ninth brother, you are 16 years old, even if you participate in the sacrificial. Is impossible to obtain the divine martial mark, why bother to be embarrassed? The 8th prince, Zhang Ji, put his hands behind his back and smiled coldly. The 6th prince stood beside the 8th prince, with a cold face, and said, "It is said that dragons give birth to 9 sons, each of which is different. What a heroic character my father was, but he gave birth to you, a waste, 16 years old, and he didn't even open the Shenwu mark, and the face of the royal family was all lost by you. What are you doing in this world? Why don't you die?" This sentence has been said a little, but it is the voice of several princes present. The family affection of the emperor's family is the thinnest, and this moment is vividly reflected. In the Kunlun realm, there are not many people who can open the divine martial seal, and there is only one person at most out of 10. It can be said that the status of every warrior is extremely high. Of course, for martial arts powerhouses, it's another matter. The bloodline of a martial arts master is strong, and future generations will also pass on the powerful bloodline, and the probability of opening the Shenwu seal is much greater. King Yunwu has a total of 9 sons, 8 of whom have opened the Shenwu seal, but only Zhang Ruochen, who is already 16 years old, still has not opened the Shenwu mark, and has become the laughingstock of the royal family. Many people jokingly call him Tiger Father and Dog. There are even some rumors in the court, claiming that Zhang Ruochen is not the biological son of the king of Yunwu County. Although it was just a rumor, it also made the faces of the people in the royal family gloomy. Therefore, most of the other princes think that Zhang Ruochen is a disgrace to the royal family, and they don't regard him as a brother at all, and they wish he died sooner. In recent years, even the king of Yunwu County has been a little alienated from Zhang Ruochen and concubine Lin. Under the exclusion of other concubines and princes, last night, Zhang Ruochen and concubine Lin were finally driven out of the main hall and forced to move to the side hall. Zhang Ruochen just stood there silently, ignoring the 5th prince and the 8th prince. Before you have enough strength, any battle of words will only make others look down on. Concubine Lin stood with the other princesses, and her heart ached when she saw Zhang Ruochen, who was being excluded, but there was nothing she could do. The ritual begins. The national teacher of Yunwu County stood above the altar, holding a scroll of blessings and reciting it subsequently. Above the altar, the big conch and the horn were blown, and the palace maids in colorful clothes and graceful clothes sounded the chime, and bell and other 16 musical instruments. Then they slaughtered the cattle and sacrificed their blood to the heavens. Rich blood qi turned into a thick pillar of light, and it went straight to the sky, shattering the clouds and rushing into the vast sky. Suddenly, a starlight flew down from the sky and landed on the eyebrows of a 6-year-old boy, merging with the boy's body and turning into a crimson, Shenwu mark. The red flame divine martial mark, which belongs to the 4-rank divine martial mark. It's amazing, and the future is immeasurable. The Shenwu imprint is also divided into grades, from the 1st grade to the 9th grade. 1st rank Shenwu mark is the weakest, and the 9th grade Shenwu mark is the strongest. Everyone stared at the 6-year-old boy with envious eyes. At the age of 6, he opened the 4-grade Shenwu seal, which can be called the pride of the sky, and his future achievements are definitely not low. Among the many generals of Yunwu County, a burly man patted his chest, laughed loudly, and was excited. Okay. Is worthy of being my Shui Liang's son. Tonight there will be a banquet in the Dutong mansion, you must come appreciate the light. Ha ha. Wow. Above the sky, countless starlight flew down, falling into the eyebrows of young men and girls, turning into divine marks. Among them, there are very few teenagers who have the most 1st-grade Shenwu imprints, and there are very few teenagers who can open the 2nd-grade Shenwu imprints, and the most powerful person is still the son of Shui Dutong, and the 4th-grade Shenwu imprint, which makes everyone out of reach. After all, the people who opened the Shenwu seal were a minority, probably only 1/10 of the total number. Everyone was inexplicably excited, and finally got the approval of the gods and opened the door to martial arts. Those teenagers and girls who did not open the Shenwu mark were all very lost, and some. Seeing that the sacrifice was about to end, Zhang Ruochen still did not open the Shenwu. At the age of 16, he didn't open the Shenwu mark, and it was almost impossible to open the Shenwu mark, so he could only be a mediocre ordinary person in the future. Everyone ignored him, like a speck of dust in a corner, not noticed at all. Concubine Lin also had a trace of fantasy at first, hoping that her child could create a miracle and open the Shenwu seal. Even if you can't become a martial arts powerhouse, at least you can strengthen your body and not be tortured by illness again. As the sacrifice drew to an end, concubine Lin's hope once again turned into disappointment, even despair. Just when Zhang Ruochen thought that he couldn't open the Shenwu seal, the white spar that he was holding tightly in his hand lit up slightly. At the best moment before the end of the sacrifice, a grain of starlight fell from the sky and fell to Zhang Ruochen's eyebrows, turning into a white circular Shenwu mark. Wow! Burning sensation came from the center of the eyebrows, and then spread throughout. It's on! Zhang Ruochen was extremely excited, and finally opened the Shenwu seal. As long as the Shenwu mark is turned on, even if it is a 1st-grade Shenwu mark, he doesn't care at all. Originally, no one paid attention to Zhang Ruochen, but the moment Zhang Ruochen opened the Shenwu seal, it attracted everyone's attention. That's not the 9th prince, he's 16 years old, and he's frail and sickly, he can actually open the divine martial seal. Many people stared at Zhang Ruochen with an incredulous look and felt incredible. The 6th prince and the 8th prince who were standing next to Zhang Ruochen also widened their eyes, revealing a look of surprise. How is this possible? Concubine Lin looked at Zhang Ruochen, and after seeing the Shenwu mark on Zhang Ruochen's eyebrows, she shed tears of joy, and immediately rushed to Zhang Ruochen's face, hugging Zhang Ruochen's body tightly. "Chenur, you finally did it. And it did. An old eunuch beside King Yunwu walked up to Zhang Ruochen and said with a smile, "Congratulations to concubine Lin, congratulations to His Royal Highness the Ninth Prince for opening the Shenwu seal." The queen asked the old slave to come and invite His Royal Highness the Ninth Prince to come over, and she wanted to personally test the grade of the divine martial seal opened by His Royal Highness the Ninth Prince. Queen. The smile on concubine Lin's face immediately froze, and she was a little nervous to protect Zhang Ruochen behind her. "Mother, let's go see the queen." Ruochen noticed the subtle changes in concubine Lin, and secretly said in his heart, "It queen is not a good person, so she should be careful." The queen sat in the tent under the altar, wearing a golden phoenix crown and a colorful phoenix robe, looking like 28 or 9, beautiful and dignified, not as old as Zhang Ruochen imagined, but also gave people a noble temperament. She said, "The great king is in retreat and cultivating in the hall of life and death, and this time the sacrificial ceremony is presided over by the queen. National teacher, have you detected the grade of the Shenwu seal opened by His Royal Highness the Ninth Prince?" The national teacher of Yunwu Zhengguo, holding an iron book in his hand, shook it, and said, "The complete book of Shenwu seals records the patterns of all the martial arts marks that have appeared in the history of the Kunlun realm, from the first rank martial arts mark to the 9-rank martial arts mark, all of them are recorded in the book. However, none of the marks match the divine martial marks of His Royal Highness the 9 Princes." The queen glanced at Zhang Ruochen with a little indifference. "Since the results can't be detected, it is estimated that there is no grade of Shenwu imprint. In other counties, there have also been some martial artists who have opened the unknown divine martial mark, and their final achievements are very limited." The 8th prince also stood in the tent and immediately spoke. "The queen is right. After all, the 9th brother is already 16 years old, and he has missed the best cultivation age. For him, even if he opens the 4th grade Shenwu mark and the 5th grade Shenwu seal, there will be no achievements." The queen nodded, agreed with the 8th prince's words, and said, "Since the 9th prince only opened the ungraded Shenwu seal, and he is already 16 years old, in order to save the cultivation resources of the royal family as much as possible, let's only give the 9th prince a marrow washing solution." Concubine Lin's face changed, and she said, "Queen Niangyang, the first year of opening the Shenwu seal is the most important year. After the 7th prince opened the Shenwu seal, he got a total of 12 marrow washing liquids, and he could wash the marrow once a month. Chanur, why can you only get one portion?" The queen said coldly, "When the 7th prince was 3 years old, he opened the 7-rank divine martial seal. How can the 9 princes compare to the 7th prince?" The 8th prince said flatteringly, "7th brother, but the concubine of the queen mother, who has inherited the powerful bloodline of the queen mother, and has the 7-grade Shenwu imprint, who can compare with the 7th brother in the entire Yunwu county? Whether the Yunwu county kingdom can be more prosperous and powerful in the future depends on the 7th brother alone." He added, "If this prince says something he doesn't like to hear, one finger of the 7th brother is 10 or 100 times more important than the life of the 9th brother, and there is no comparison at all." Concubine Lin clenched her lips and teeth, and continued to fight for Zhang Ruochen, but when the 8th prince opened the Shenwu seal, he also got 4 marrow washing liquids. The queen mother was very displeased and said, "The higher the talent, the more resources you get. The 9 princes have the lowest talent, and the fewer resources they get." "But," concubine Lin said. The queen mother was even more impatient, and said in a deep voice, "The queen has already made a decision. Concubine Lin, if you dare to say one more word, do you believe that the queen will let people drag you out again and blame you?" Again, Zhang Ruochen suddenly raised his head when he heard the words of the queen's mother. Could it be that the queen's mother once scolded her mother? After concubine Lin heard the words of the queen mother, her whole body trembled slightly, as if she remembered something terrible, and immediately closed her mouth. At this moment, someone had already sent a piece of marrow washing solution and handed it to Zhang Ruochen's hands. Zhang Ruochen took the marrow wash, walked to concubine Lin's side, turned around and stared deeply at the queen mother who was sitting above, and said, "Mother, let's go back." Concubine Lin pursed her lips lightly and nodded bitterly. The Queen Mother stared at the backs of Zhang Ruochen and concubine Lin leaving, and said, 3 months later, it will be the year-end assessment of the royal family, and the 9th prince must cultivate hard, and strive to complete the purifying the pulse of the pulse, within 3 months and become a real martial artist. When the time comes, the king will also be out of the customs, and I hope you can surprise him. Quote. Immediately, the disdainful voice of the 8th prince sounded, and said with a smile, even if there are 3 parts of the marrow washing solution, it is impossible to complete the marrow washing and pulse flushing within 3 months. It took me half a year to do it, and with the qualifications of the 9th brother, it is estimated that it will take more than a year to have a chance. Whoa. Quote. Zhang Ruochen didn't look back, clenched his fists, and the thought in his heart was very firm, you just wait and see, I will definitely not let you down. Quote. Back in the Z side hall, Zhang Ruochen couldn't wait to close the door and immediately cultivate. Although I don't know what kind of Shenwu mark is opened, since I have the Shenwu mark, I can definitely cultivate my true qi. First of all, the first step is to open up a qi pool under the Shenwu seal. The so-called qi pool is the pool that holds the true qi. The larger the pool, the more true qi it can hold. As the cultivation improves, the qi pool will gradually expand. Generally speaking, to open up an heir pool, it must be done under the guidance of elders. For Zhang Ruochen, who has rich cultivation experience, it is not difficult to open up the qi pool, and it only took half an hour for him to successfully open up the qi pool. For other monks, it would take at least a few days to try before it was possible to open up the qi pool. Zhang Ruochen only took half an hour. This body is really weak, it only opens up an egg-sized qi pool, and it can hold too little true qi. Quote. It is not enough to open up the gas pool. The qi pool is just a place to store true qi. In order for true qi to run throughout the body, it must open up its own cultivation. Only by completing this step can you have true qi and become a true martial artist. The next step is the second step, which is to wash the marrow and flush the pulse. Zhang Ruochen took out the small jade bottle containing the marrow washing solution, sniffed it lightly with his nose, and after confirming that it was the real marrow washing solution, he directly poured the whole bottle of marrow washing solution into his mouth. After the marrow wash entered the throat, it was very cold, but only for a moment, the cold disappeared, and was replaced by a hot heat. It's like there's a flame burning in the body. A trace of flame drilled into every meridian of Zhang Ruochen's body, and then merged into the meridians. The 9 Heavens Ming Emperor Sutra, the first layer, the Emperor Huang Jingtian. Practicing different exercises, the meridian routes opened up are naturally different. The more advanced the exercises, the more complex and surprising the meridian routes. Running meridians of the 9 Heavens Ming Emperor Sutra are as many as 36, and of course, Zhang Ruochen doesn't need to open up all the meridians now, he only needs to open up the first meridian, even if he completes the marrow washing and flushing veins. They say that I won't be able to complete the marrow cleansing and pulse flushing in 3 months, but I will prove with practical actions that I can complete the marrow washing and pulse washing tonight and become a real martial artist. With the help of the cultivation experience of the previous life, Zhang Ruochen used the only wisp of true qi to rush the vein with all his strength, and soon opened up the first meridian more than half. A sharp pain came from his body, as if the meridians were about to be torn off, making Zhang Ruochen tremble. If it were someone else, if they encountered such a situation, they would definitely have failed to rush the pulse. However, Zhang Ruochen gritted his teeth, persevered with strong willpower, and never gave up despite the beads of sweat falling to the ground. Just the last little. Quote. Hope is just around the corner, and we must make sure to succeed. Be sure to succeed. Zhang Ruochen burst into full swing and shocked all the few true qi. Boom! Loud bang came from his body, making a deafening sound, almost shaking Zhang Ruochen. After the pain disappeared, I only felt a cold air flow in the meridians, and the pain gradually disappeared, and an unprecedented feeling of comfort spread throughout the body. Haha! It worked! successfully complete the marrow washing and pulse and become a true martial artist. Quote. The 8th prince completed this step and took 4 doses of marrow washing, which took half a year. Zhang Ruochen only used it for 1 night, and only took 1 dose of marrow washing solution. Completing the marrow washing and flushing the pulse is the cultivation of the early stage of the yellow extreme realm. Martial arts cultivation is divided into 4 realms: yellow, Zan, earth, and heaven, namely, yellow extreme realm, Zan extreme realm, earth extreme realm, and heavenly extreme realm. Each great realm is divided into 7 small realms, which are divided into the early stage, the middle stage, the late stage, the minor pole, the middle pole, the great pole, and the great perfection. 4 big and 7 small. Zhang Ruochen is now the cultivation of the early stage of the yellow extreme realm. The early, middle, and late stages of the yellow extreme realm open up the meridians and the true qi tank, making the strength of the physical body stronger and stronger, and every time a small realm is raised, the strength will increase by a large margin. The 8th prince is the cultivator of the late stage of the yellow extreme realm, and he can lift a stone plate weighing 300 catties with his bare hands and throw the stone plate 10 zhang away. The power of his punch is comparable to the strength of a brute bull. Most of the martial artists in the later stage of the yellow extreme realm can cultivate the power of a bull. Above the later stage, there are the 4 realms of small pole, middle pole, great pole, and great perfection. If you break through the late stage of the yellow pole realm, you will be able to reach the small pole of the yellow pole realm, and you will immediately have the power of the 4 bulls, and your strength will be quadrupled. Therefore, the martial artists of the small pole of the yellow polar realm are just like adults against children, and there is no problem at all if they fight 10 at a time. Up, the middle pole, the great pole, and the great perfection are even more terrifying, with powers unimaginable to ordinary people. Those realms are still far away from Zhang Ruochen, and now there is no need to think about it at all. Steady cultivation is the key, 1 step at a time, in order to go further. The 8th prince has cultivated for 8 years, and he has only reached the late stage of the yellow extreme realm, which can only be regarded as an ordinary talent. It took half a year for the 8th prince to complete the marrow washing and flushing of the pulse. It only took me 1 night. It took 8 years for the 8th prince to cultivate to the late stage of the yellow extreme realm. I had to do it within 3 months. It's not like I don't have the opportunity to do it. 3 months later, it is the year-end assessment of the royal family, and all the young warriors of the royal family, including the princes, county lords, and relatives of the emperor, will all participate in the assessment to test the cultivation results of the past year. In the royal family, if you want to gain status, if you want to be respected, and if you want to get more cultivation resources, you have to prove your strength. Trimester. Within 3 months, she must cultivate to the late stage of the yellow extreme realm, even if it is not for herself, but for the sake of the mother who cares and loves her, and strives for her dignity that belongs to her. At the beginning of reaching the yellow pole realm, the chi pool became dozens of times larger, the size of a basketball. The true chi in the chi pool was still very rare, only a mass the size of an egg, less than 1/10 of the capacity of the chi pool. Only by cultivating the true qi in the qi pool can he impact the next realm, the middle stage of the yellow extreme realm. Zhang Ruochen sat down cross-legged, closed his eyes, the Shenwu mark in the center of his eyebrows opened, and began to cultivate the first layer of the 9 Heavens Ming Emperor's Sutra, Emperor Wangjing Tian. True qi flows out of the qi pool and flows through the whole body along the meridian that has been opened up with the operation of the true qi in his body. Zhang Ruochen's body seemed to turn into a whirlpool, and began to slowly absorb the spiritual energy between heaven and earth. Aura of heaven and earth, the imprint of Shenwu that flows into the center of the eyebrows. The Shenwu seal also transforms the heaven and earth spiritual qi into true qi and stores it in the qi pool. True qi flows out of the qi pool, along the meridians, and runs throughout the body. True qi runs in the body for a single week. After running for 9 weeks, when Zhang Ruochen opened his eyes again, he found that the amount of true qi in his body had doubled, reaching 1/10 of the capacity of the qi pool. If other martial artists knew that they could double the amount of true qi in their bodies in such a short period of time, they would definitely be overjoyed. However, Zhang Ruochen was a little dissatisfied. After cultivating for 9 weeks, I actually increased my true qi by such a little, it's too slow. If only I could get a spirit crystal. My cultivation speed can be doubled. You must know that Zhang Ruochen is cultivating the 9 Heavens Ming Emperor Sutra, and the speed of absorbing true qi is originally faster than those martial artists who cultivate low-level exercises. The current cultivation speed naturally made him very dissatisfied. If you can use a spirit crystal, you can increase the speed of cultivation by a large margin. Spirit crystal, which is composed of spiritual energy into a crystal. You can not only dig the natural spirit crystal in the underground ore vein, but also kill the brute beast and dig up the acquired spirit crystal in the brute's body. The value of a spirit crystal is generally equivalent to the value of 1,000 silver coins, and only the nobles of the kings and grandsons, or the geniuses cultivated by the big families, have the opportunity to obtain the spirit crystals. 1,000 silver coins is definitely a huge number for the current Zhang Ruochen and concubine Lin, and it is impossible to afford it. Spirit crystal. Zhang Ruochen's heart moved, and he immediately took out the white jujube core-shaped spar that he had been wearing on his body and held it in the palm of his hand. Could this be a spirit crystal? The true qi in his body was running, and the divine martial mark on his eyebrows immediately emerged, turning into a circular halo the size of a coin. A white true qi shot out from the center of his eyebrows and hit the white spar. Wow! On the surface of the white spar, 4 ancient characters emerged. It's weird. Zhang Ruochen had never seen such words, but he recognized the 4 words at a glance: space-time crystal. You must know that in the previous life, Zhang Ruochen also injected true qi into the white spar, but he never stimulated the words on the surface of the spar. In my last life, my cultivation was hundreds of times stronger than now, and I didn't let words appear on the surface of the white crystal. In this life, the cultivation in the early stage of the yellow extreme realm actually caused a change in the white spar. It is not the cause of the strength of the true qi at all, but the cause of the attributes of the true qi. For example, a martial artist with the flame divine martial mark has the best effect when using a fire attribute spirit crystal, which can reach 3 times the cultivation speed. Using ordinary spirit crystals, you can only reach twice the cultivation speed. In nature, 90% of spirit crystals have no attributes. Just like 90% of martial artists, they can only inspire martial arts marks that have no attributes. Could it be that the Shenwu seal I opened also has some kind of attribute that just matches space-time crystal? Wait, what is a space-time hedron? Zhang Ruochen was the son of Emperor Ming in his last life, and he had a wide range of knowledge, and he had heard of many attribute spirit crystals, such as Red Flame Spirit Crystal, Xuanbing Spirit Crystal, Thunder and Lightning Spirit Crystal, Evil Blood Spirit Crystal. But he had never heard of the spirit crystal of time and space attributes. Because time and space cannot be controlled by human beings at all, even if it is a god, it cannot shake time and space, and the rules of time and space must be followed. Just when Zhang Ruochen was still very puzzled, a halo of light appeared on the surface of the spacetime spar, turning into a whirlpool. The whirlpool continued to grow, enveloping Zhang Ruochen's body. Zhang Ruochen only felt that the sky was spinning for a while, and the next moment, he came to a confined space and fell heavily to the hard ground. Fortunately, he completed the marrow washing and pulse flushing, and when he reached the early stage of the yellow extreme realm, his body strengthened a lot. If he had used his previous fragile body, he would have fallen to his death. Zhang Ruochen got up from the ground, moved his aching muscles and bones, and began to observe the space around him. The space is completely enclosed and no doors or windows are visible. The height of the space is about 10 meters, and the length and width are about 10 meters. How so? Where did I come from? Where is this again? Hey, there's a stone platform there. In the entire space, there is only one stone platform. On the stone platform is a rolled up painting, a silver iron book. Other than that, there is nothing else. Zhang Ruochen took the lead in getting the painting, but the painting was extremely heavy, as if it was connected to the stone platform. No matter how much force Zhang Ruochen used, the scroll did not move at all. Since he couldn't pick up the scroll and couldn't open it, Zhang Ruochen could only give up for the time being, and then stared at the thin silver iron book. The surface of the silver iron book, 4 words are written: Secret Book of Time and Space. This time, Zhang Ruochen was prepared, and used his true qi to run his whole body, mobilize the power of his whole body, and turned the first page of the Secret Book of Time and Space. So easy. The Secret Book of Time and Space is easy to read and effortless. Zhang Ruochen shook his head stupidly, stopped running his true qi, picked up the Secret Book of Time and Space, held it in his hand, and read it carefully. The first page of the Secret Book of Time and Space is not a secret book of cultivation, but a record of the previous master of the space, time crystal, Sumeru holy monk. After Zhang Ruochen read the transcript of the holy monk of Sumeru, he finally understood everything. It turns out that the divine martial seal I opened turned out to be the divine martial seal of time and space. According to the holy monk of Sumeru, none of the hundreds of millions of people can open the divine martial mark of time and space. From ancient times to the present, there have only been 2 people, and counting me is 3. Zhang Ruochen's eyes were sharp, and he said firmly, "Mother, don't worry. I will definitely cultivate to become a strong man as soon as possible and use my own strength to protect you." With the blood pill in hand, Zhang Ruochen returned to his room and continued to work hard to cultivate. Niangyang, it is said that a martial artist not only has to take the blood pill, but also has to cultivate the exercises, and he must have the cultivation exercises in order to open up the meridians. The maid Yuner said. Concubine Lin looked at Zhang Ruochen's back as she left, pursed her lips, nodded bitterly, and said, "I know. However, even the lowest grade exercises will sell for more than 500 silver coins, and with my current financial resources, I can't afford to buy them at all. Moreover, now that the queen and the national teacher are presiding over the government, it is impossible for the queen to let Chenur go to the library of books to receive cultivation exercises and martial arts. Looks like there's only one way." The maid Yuner said, Niang is going to ask the Lin family. But 3 years ago, Niangyang had completely fallen out with the Lin family, and they would practice exercises for His Royal Highness the 9th Prince. As long as they are willing to practice exercises for Chenur, even if they ask me to kneel on the ground and admit my mistakes, I can still kneel. Concubine Lin seemed to think of something from the past, and tears couldn't help but flow from her eyes. The inner space of the space-time spar is very full of aura, and the intensity is about twice that of the outside world. You must know that in Yunwu County, if the aura concentration of those famous mountains and rivers reaches 1 or 5 times, it is already considered a cultivation treasure land, and it will be contested by major families. Sitting in the center of the inner space, Zhang Ruochen took out the jade bottle containing 10 blood pills, poured out a blood pill from the jade bottle, took it to the tip of his nose and sniffed it gently. Although the blood pill is refined from the blood of brute beasts, it does not smell of blood, but has a faint fragrance. When the alchemist was refining the blood pill, he removed the bloody qi in it and added tiger rosewood and mandal flowers. Long-term consumption of the blood pill can not only provide a steady stream of physical strength for the warrior, but also improve the meridians, bones, and viscera of the warrior, making the warrior's body stronger. It's just a blood pill. Zhang Ruochen nodded lightly and muttered to himself, "I thought that the current cultivation was enough to take a first-grade blood pill." Zhang Ruochen put a blood pill into his mouth, and immediately recapped the jade bottle and put it on the stone platform. Under the urging of the true qi, the blood qi of the blood pill quickly melted, providing Zhang Ruochen with an endless stream of physical strength. Although I reached the early stage of the yellow extreme realm and became a martial artist, this body is too thin and weak to be compared to other martial artists at all. You must refine your body to become stronger, otherwise you will suffer a great loss when you fight with martial artists of the same realm. For martial artists, it is not only necessary to cultivate true qi, but also to cultivate martial arts. The dragon is like a palm. Quote. Zhang Ruochen's mind came up with this set of mysterious palm techniques, which was enough to rank in the top 3 in the martial arts secret book in his memory, which was just right for him to cultivate now. His legs were apart, his waist was sinking, filling his legs with the true qi in his body, fixing his body, slowly lifting a pair of arms, and began to slap his palms according to a certain mysterious law. In his mind, he imagined himself as an ancient god with infinite power, an abyssal demon dragon that swallowed clouds and spitted mist, and every punch he threw used all his strength, as if he wanted to punch out every trace of power in his body. With each palm, the muscles of the whole body are pulled, and the true qi in the body is also integrated into the muscles, causing the muscles and muscles to deform, become more powerful, tougher, and even merge with the true qi. The dragon elephant is like a palm, a kind of martial art with 13 palm prints, which belongs to the king, level lower grade. To be exact, if you can cultivate the dragon elephant prajna palm to the 13th palm, even if it is compared to a god level martial art, it is not much different. Martial arts are divided into 5 levels: human, spirit, ghost, king, and the dragon elephant is like the first palm of the brute elephant galloping to the earth, and the cultivation is successful, and the power is comparable to that of a human, level low, grade martial art. The dragon elephant is like the second palm of the flying dragon in the sky, and the cultivation is successful, and the power is comparable to that of a human, level mid, grade martial art. The dragon elephant is like the third palm of the dragon elephant returning to the field, and the cultivation is successful, and the power is comparable to the human, level martial arts. The dragon elephant is like the fourth palm of the dragon image, and the cultivation is successful, and the power is comparable to the martial arts of the lower grade of the spirit level. The 13th palm of the dragon elephant prajna palm, known as the dragon elephant destroying the world, is as powerful as a god-level martial art, and the power exerted is unimaginable. The first few palms of the dragon elephant prajna palm can only be regarded as a low-level martial art, and the power is not strong. Moreover, the dragon elephant is like a palm, and it is extremely difficult to cultivate, and there are very few people who can cultivate to the 7th palm. After the 7th palm, it takes a lot of time and a lot of energy to cultivate each palm, and if you can't resist the power of the strongest and most yang in your body, you may even burn your body and spontaneously combust. It is precisely because of these reasons that the dragon elephant prajna can only be regarded as a king-level inferior martial art. Although the dragon elephant prajna palm is very difficult to cultivate, it is just right for Zhang Ruochen to cultivate now, and he can refine his body to become strong in a short period of time. The dragon elephant is like the first palm, and the elephant gallops to the ground. Zhang Ruochen first stood on the horse, and then, he quickly stepped on the pace, rushed out, and quickly made a palm print. Quiet as a mountain, moving like a wild elephant. After practicing over and over again, until the true qi in the body was exhausted, he wiped off his sweat, sat cross-legged on the ground, and used the divine martial mark in the center of his eyebrows to absorb the spiritual energy in the space inside the space-time crystal, transforming it into an endless stream of true qi. In the inner space of the space-time crystal, he cultivated for 9 days in a row, and finally succeeded in cultivating the first palm of the dragon elephant like a palm, wild elephant galloping earth. 9 days in the inner space, and the outside world is only the past 3 days. I don't know how powerful the first palm of the dragon elephant palm is with my current cultivation. Zhang Ruochen walked out of the inner space of the space-time spar, came to the backyard, stood in the center of the courtyard, and operated the true qi in his body, filling his legs. Elephant gallops. He stepped on a regular pace and rushed out. As the pace progressed, a strong force rushed up from the legs, passed through the waist and abdomen, spine, surged to the back and shoulders, and gushed out from the arms. Although it is just a move, it mobilizes the power of every muscle in the body, and the explosive power is naturally quite amazing. Bang! 2 palms hit a half-human high 1,000-pound boulder, and then, immediately retracted his palms, stepped on the footprints just now, and quickly retreated to the same place. Zhang Ruochen looked at the 1,000-pound boulder, and saw that there were 2 shallow palm-shaped indentations on the surface of the boulder. The bottom of the boulder sank about 2 centimeters into the dirt. Zhang Ruochen is still quite satisfied with the power of this palm. Although the dragon elephant prajna palm is now only a human-level low-grade martial art, it is more sophisticated than other human-level low-grade martial arts, and the power that erupts is also more powerful. The higher the level of martial arts, the more difficult it is to cultivate. If I were to directly cultivate a spirit-level martial art now, it would be impossible for me to succeed in cultivating within 9 days, and it would take at least half a year. Moreover, with the amount of true qi in my body, I can't use a spirit-level martial art. The time for cultivating martial arts and exercises must be reasonably arranged. If you focus on the cultivation of martial arts and ignore the cultivation of exercises, it will lead to a slow cultivation realm. If you focus on the cultivation of the exercises and ignore the cultivation of martial arts, you will suffer a big loss when you fight with others. In any case, after cultivating Jackie Chan as the first palm, Zhang Ruochen finally had the ability to protect himself after 800 years. In the past 9 days, Zhang Ruochen's cultivation has also improved greatly, and the true qi in the qi pool has been cultivated, and he can start to open up the second vein. However, in order to open up the muscles and veins, it is necessary to take the marrow washing solution. The queen only gave Zhang Ruochen a marrow washing liquid, which was already used when opening the first meridian. How can I get a second dose, or even more? Ninth Prince, Niangyang is looking for you everywhere, what are you doing here? The maid Yuner saw Zhang Ruochen standing in the center of the courtyard, so she walked over curiously. Is the only maid by concubine Lin and Zhang Ruochen's side, about 17 or 18. Zhang Ruochen walked to the opposite side of Yuner, blocking Yuner's sight, so that she would not see the 2 handprints on the 1,000-pound boulder in the distance, and asked with concern, Sister Yuner, is the injury on your arm better? Yuner shook her head lightly and said, it will take 100 days for the injured muscles and bones to be broken, and I'm afraid it will take 2 or 3 months to heal. The injury on her arm was pushed out by the 8th prince a few days ago and her bones were broken. For a servant girl like them, let alone breaking bones, even if they were beaten to death, the 8th prince would not need to bear any responsibility. In a world where the strong are respected, the weak have no status at all. Zhang Ruochen said, why don't you buy a muscle and bone intermittent cream? Yuner endured the pain in her arm and smiled bitterly. A worst muscle and bone interrupting cream would cost 200 silver coins to buy, and inferior people like us can't afford to use it at all. 9th Prince, it's good that you can care about us slaves. Hurry up and follow me to see Niangyang. Today, we are going out of the palace. Zhang Ruochen followed behind Yuner and asked curiously, out of the palace? Where to? Go see Shan Shan. It's been a long time since you've seen her, so you're glad you're right. Yuner had a bright smile on her face and stared at Zhang Ruochen. Every time he talks about Lu Shan, he will definitely be red-faced and shy like a big girl. Who's Shan Shan? Zhang Ruochen just wanted to ask this sentence, but he immediately swallowed it back. Obviously, Zhang Ruochen before he died of illness must have known a woman named Lu Shan, and listening to Yuner's tone, their relationship may be very unusual. If Zhang Ruochen asks, who is Lu Shan, he will definitely be exposed. In that case, then keep silent and talk as little as possible. Fortunately, over the years, Zhang Ruochen has been frail and sickly, except for concubine Lin who has always cared about him. He has rarely had contact with people, otherwise, it is estimated that he would have been suspected a long time ago. Yuner was slightly surprised when she saw that Zhang Ruochen was very calm, but she didn't think much about it, and continued to walk towards the courtyard where concubine Lin lived. Zhang Ruochen, concubine Lin, and the maid Yuner sat in an ancient antelope horse carriage and slowly walked out of the Yunwu palace. The antelope horse is not a real horse, but a brute beast with a single horn on its head, with a body of more than 3 meters high, like a baby elephant, and its running speed is more than 5 times that of an ordinary war horse. Some of these sturdy antelope horses are even able to travel up to 3,000 miles a day. The ancient chariot of the antelope horse did not know how far it had traveled, and gradually stopped. Zhang Ruochen stepped down from the car, looked at the 2 golden gates not far away, and then looked at the gold-edged plaque hanging on the top of the gate, on which were written 2 vigorous and powerful characters, Lin Mansion. His heart moved. Didn't his mother have the surname, Lin? Looking at the grandeur of this mansion, the Lin family is not a small family, but a big family. If the mother's family is really a big family, why can't she get the support of her mother's family, but is bullied by other princesses everywhere in the county king's mansion? There must be something hidden. Concubine Lin also stepped down from the carriage, looked up at the familiar and unfamiliar door, and said, "Chanur, you must have wanted to see Lu Shan for a long time. Now that you have also opened up the divine martial mark, I believe that you and Lu Shan have a lot of topics to discuss, you must come on." Until now, Zhang Ruochen didn't know who Lu Shan was, and when he heard Yunar and concubine Lin's words, he always had a strange feeling. Under the leadership of concubine Lin, Zhang Ruochen and Yunar walked into the Lin mansion together. When the princess returned to the family, she should theoretically be greeted ceremoniously, but it was only an elderly housekeeper who welcomed concubine Lin and Zhang Ruochen into the door. Concubine Lin was taken to the inner mansion by the old housekeeper, while Zhang Ruochen and Yunar stayed in the outer mansion, and only the 2 maids stayed to receive them. Zhang Ruochen always felt that the atmosphere was very wrong, but he didn't know how to ask, so he could only continue to remain silent. "Ninth Prince, aren't you going to see Lu Shan? She should be a martial arts arena now, and those young children of the Lin family should all cultivate there." Yunar asked. Was mentioned a few times by Yunar and concubine Lin, and Zhang Ruochen's heart became even more curious. Who is the woman called Lu Shan? It shouldn't hurt to go and see it. Let's go to the Lin family's martial arts arena. Zhang Ruochen nodded. The inner house of the Lin family. In an antique hall, Lin Fengxian, the head of the Lin family, sat on the Taishi chair steadily. He looked like he was in his 30s, with 2 neat beards above his lips, and glanced at concubine Lin, who was sitting opposite, and said, "The 9th prince is a descendant of the county prince's mansion. Even if he opens the Shenwu seal, he should go to the library of the county prince's mansion to select the cultivation exercises." Why did concubine Lin come to the Lin family to ask for the cultivation exercises? Concubine Lin bit her lip lightly and said, "It's not a request, it's that I ask the eldest brother to give him a volume of cultivation exercises for the sake of Chanur being your nephew." Lin Fengxian snorted coldly, slapped his palm on the table, and said, "Now you know that you have come to beg my brother. Now come and intercede with me. 3 years ago, when I went to the county king's mansion to beg you, why didn't you save Chen Yu because he was your nephew? You know that Chen Yu is my sister-in-law, and he is a peerless genius of the Lin family who has been difficult to produce in 100 years. As long as you go to the king of the county, you can always keep him, but you don't." 3 years ago, concubine Lin was very aggrieved, and couldn't help crying, wanting to tell the truth 3 years ago. However, Lin Fengxian interrupted her and said, "Let's go. The Lin family and you have already broken off their friendship, and they will not come back in the future." Concubine Lin. Boom. Concubine Lin knelt directly on the ground, kept crying, and said in a choked voice, "Big brother, are you so ruthless? I want to see Daddy. Dad went to Heavenly Demon Ridge, and he won't come back until 3 months, and you won't see him now." Lin Fengxian said indifferently, "There is one more thing. Lu Shan and His Royal Highness the 7th Prince are about to get engaged, so that His Royal Highness the 9th Prince will stay away from Lu Shan in the future." Concubine Lin's heart was even more desperate, and she said, "You know that Chanur has always liked Lu Shan. If he knew that Lu Shan and the 7th Prince were engaged, how sad would he be? Besides, how can it be the 7th Prince? Lin Fengxian said. His Royal Highness the 7th Prince opened the 7-rank divine martial mark when he was 3 years old. How amazing is his talent! With his current martial arts cultivation, the younger generation of the entire Yunwu County Kingdom has no one to look up to. Being able to marry His Royal Highness the 7th Prince will be of great benefit to the future of our Lin family. Although the 9th Prince and Lu Shan are cousins, they were also good playmates when they were young, and they can be regarded as childhood sweethearts. However, after all, the 9th Prince's qualifications are mediocre, and he only opened the divine martial mark at the age of 16, and he will not have much achievement in this life, and being able to cultivate to the late stage of the yellow extreme realm should be the limit, and there is no comparison with the 7th Prince. Concubine Lin said. Lu Shan is also willing to be engaged to the 7th Prince. For the sake of the union of family interests, will you really be happy? Lin Feng stared at concubine Lin first, and said indifferently, "You are wrong, this is Lu Shan's own decision." The Lin family's martial arts arena is very open, the size of half a football field. One by one, the young children of the Lin family wearing cyan martial arts clothes are practicing martial arts on the martial arts field. Some are practicing boxing, some are practicing swordsmanship, and some are practicing swordsmanship. They belong to the elite of the Lin family, and each of them had opened the divine martial mark and concentrated on cultivation. At the same time, there are also elders of the Lin family who guide them in the martial arts arena, and there is a thriving atmosphere. Zhang Ruochen nodded, and said secretly in his heart, the Lin family can be regarded as a big clan in the Yunwu County Kingdom. Suddenly, Zhang Ruochen's eyes were fixed on a slender girl, and he couldn't help but be a little surprised. I saw that the girl looked only 14 or 5 years old, with a petite and delicate figure, eyebrows like willow leaves, eyes bright like stars, and snow-white skin like spiritual jade. What a beautiful embryo! She held a sword that emitted a faint starlight, exuding a pale cyan sword light. Countless sword chi surrounded her body, following her steps, fluttering like a frightening dragon, graceful like a dragon. The swordsmanship was simply exquisite to the extreme. The true chi is released, and the sword goes with your heart. Her martial arts cultivation has at least reached the extreme position of the yellow extreme realm, which is much stronger than the 8th prince. Zhang Ruochen said secretly in his heart. Isn't that the 9 princes? He actually came to the Lin mansion. A young son of the Lin family saw Zhang Ruochen standing outside the martial arts arena and showed a somewhat cold smile. I must have come to find Sister Shan again, but unfortunately, Sister Shan doesn't bother to see him now. I heard that he also opened the Shenwu seal. Hey, what can you do when you open the Shenwu seal at the age of 16? If he wasn't the cousin of Sister Lucian, maybe he wouldn't even be able to enter the door of the Lin family. I heard that Sister Lu Shan is about to get engaged to the 7th prince. She is really a talented woman. Hey, it is said that the 9th prince has always had a crush on Sister Lu Shan. You guess, if he heard of Lu Shan and the 7th prince your highness is about to get engaged, what will be your expression? The young martial artists of the Lin family all stopped practicing, staring at Zhang Ruochen who was standing outside the martial arts arena, pointing and pointing, talking a lot, and sometimes laughing playfully. Lin Qishan also stopped practicing the sword, and glanced at Zhang Ruochen, who was standing outside the martial arts arena, and with a slight wave of his slender jade arm, the starlight sword in his hand was accurately scabbarded 5 meters away. Lin Lucian walked in front of Zhang Ruochen, looked at Zhang Ruochen's thin body, and said, "Cousin, I haven't seen you for a long time. I heard that you also opened the Shenwu seal." When they were very young, Lin Lucian and Zhang Ruochen were still good playmates, and they could be regarded as childhood sweethearts, but later Lin Lucian opened the Shenwu seal, and most of the time was spent on cultivation, and Zhang Ruochen became more and more estranged. After what happened 3 years ago, she had never been to the Yunwu Palace again. Although Zhang Ruochen is sick all year round, he still often goes to Lin's house to look for her. Even if he can see her, he will feel quite happy. However, the number of times I can see her is getting less and less, and I have never seen her in the past 6 months. She always sent a maid out to send Zhang Ruochen away. So she's my cousin. The current Zhang Ruochen can be said to be the first time he has seen Lin Lucian, and he doesn't have any feelings for her, so he looks very calm and modestly says, "It is true that the Shenwu mark has been opened, but the queen said that it is just a Shenwu mark without a grade, so naturally it cannot be compared with the cousin's Shenwu mark." Lin Qishan nodded, raised her snow-white chin, as proud as a white swan, and said, "After all, you are 16 years old, and being able to open the divine martial mark can be regarded as a gift from the heavens. In the future, you must work hard to cultivate, although you can't become a martial arts powerhouse, but at least you can strengthen your body, and you don't have to lie on a hospital bed all year round, for you. At least I can be a normal person." Zhang Ruochen frowned slightly, nodded, and said, "I will definitely work hard to cultivate in the future, and strive to catch up with my cousin's cultivation." Lin Qishan naturally knew that Zhang Ruochen liked her, and when she heard Zhang Ruochen's words, she thought that Zhang Ruochen still didn't give up and wanted to continue to pursue her. "Huh, cousin, my cultivation has reached the middle extreme realm of the yellow extreme realm, and I am only one step away from the great extreme realm. With your qualifications, it is estimated that you will not be able to cultivate in the middle extreme realm in your lifetime, and the most important thing for you to do now is to cultivate in a down-to-earth manner, not to blindly pursue some things that should not be pursued, and to be a person who is not too ambitious, otherwise you will suffer from it," Lin Lucian said with a pun. Zhang Ruochen's brows furrowed even deeper. Lin Lucian glanced at Zhang Ruochen with some sympathy, and said, "Cousin, there is one more thing I want to tell you, I hope you don't feel too sad. 3 months later, when the county king is out of the customs, His Royal Highness the 7th Prince and I should be engaged. There's a good show. Hey, hey." The young martial artists of the Lin family were all overjoyed, and they all stared at Zhang Ruochen, wanting to see what kind of reaction Zhang Ruochen would have. Zhang Ruochen didn't have any mood fluctuations, and said lightly, "Then congratulations to my cousin, we can be regarded as close to each other in the future." After saying this, Zhang Ruochen turned around and left. The first time they met, Zhang Ruochen didn't have a good impression of this beautiful and moving cousin, and he didn't speculate for more than half a sentence, so he left a little boringly. Seeing that Zhang Ruochen didn't react at all, the young martial artists of the Lin family were all disappointed. How so? Seeing Zhang Ruochen's indifferent appearance, Lin Lucian's heart was also a little lost, staring at Zhang Ruochen's back as he turned away, and said a little unwillingly, "Don't you want to know the reason?" Zhang Ruochen really wasn't interested in who Lin Lucian was engaged to, but since she had to tell him, he naturally reluctantly stopped and nodded lightly. "When you get engaged, I will definitely be there to congratulate. If nothing else, I'll go to my mother." As soon as he finished saying this, Zhang Ruochen saw concubine Lin walking out of the inner courtyard of the Lin mansion. Concubine Lin's eyes were a little red, obviously she had just cried, although she had wiped away her tears, how could she hide it from Zhang Ruochen? Zhang Ruochen immediately greeted him and asked with concern, "Mother, what's wrong with you? Who bullied you?" Concubine Lin shook her head and said, "It's okay, let's go back." Looking at concubine Lin's appearance, how could she be fine? After meeting Lin Lucian, Zhang Ruochen did not have a good impression of the Lin family. Seeing concubine Lin's appearance at the moment, Zhang Ruochen had even less good feelings for the Lin family. Wait. Lin Fengxian walked out of the inner courtyard with his hands behind his back, glanced at Zhang Ruochen lightly, took out a scroll of animal skin ancient books from his sleeve, and said, "This is a set of human-level low-grade cultivation exercises, tie a decision, which can open up 7 meridians, take it to practice. Although it's not a profound cultivation technique, at least it can complete the marrow washing and pulse flushing, which should be enough for you." Subsequently, Lin Fengxian ordered someone to take 2 copies of the marrow washing solution, and said coldly, "After all, you also have the blood of our Lin family on your body, and these 2 parts of the marrow washing solution will also be taken together." Concubine Lin stared at Lin Fengxian deeply, revealing a grateful look, and immediately took Zhang Ruochen's hand and said, "Chanur, thank you uncle yet." Zhang Ruochen looked at Lin Fengxian's look of charity, and he was very unhappy in his heart. No wonder his mother's eyes were red. It is estimated that his mother was humiliated in front of him in order to ask him for a volume of cultivation exercises just now. You don't need their Lin family to give alms, let's go. Zhang Ruochen didn't look at the cultivation exercises and marrow washing liquid that Lin Fengxian took out, and pulled concubine Lin to leave the Lin mansion. Give face, I really think of myself as a prince. The young martial artists of the Lin family all snorted and sneered. Lin Qishan stared at the young man who resolutely walked out of the Lin mansion, and was even more surprised in her heart, always feeling that the cousin who had been weak since childhood seemed to have become a little different. With the divine martial mark activated, he will naturally become a little tougher. However, he didn't know that he didn't open the Shenwu mark until he was 16 years old. In fact, he had already passed the golden age of martial arts cultivation. What do you want to do? We are destined to be people of two worlds in the future. Quote. Lin Qishan sighed, returned to the martial arts arena, and continued to cultivate. Out of the Lin mansion, concubine Lin said, "Chenur, you are too impulsive. As long as you can become a martial artist and be able to use martial arts to strengthen your body, it doesn't matter if your mother suffers a lot of grievances." Quote. Zhang Ruochen's body stood straight, turned around and stared at the golden plaque printed with Lin Mansion, and said, "Mother, don't worry. Even without the Lin family's charity, I can still become a martial artist, and I must be the strongest among martial artists." Quote. Concubine Lin sighed softly, didn't continue to speak, and suddenly seemed to think of something, and said, "Chenur, you already know about the engagement between Lu Shan and the seventh prince, right? Don't be too sad." Quote. Zhang Ruochen smiled and said, "Mother, don't worry. There are many good women in the world, and there are always women who are better than Lin Lushan." Quote. If you think so, my mother will really feel at ease. Quote. Concubine Lin smiled with relief. Back at the Yunwu Palace, Zhang Ruochen subdued the last blood pill, entered the inner space of the space time crystal, and began to cultivate the dragon elephant Panruo fist again. After refining to exhaustion, he sat down for a short rest. The humiliation suffered by my mother in the Lin family, sooner or later I will have to make the Lin family return it doubly. What happened 3 years ago? It seems that I have to find an opportunity to ask Sister Yuner. Of course, my first goal now is to hit the middle stage of the yellow extreme realm as soon as possible. Quote. If you want to hit the middle stage of the yellow extreme realm, you must take the marrow washing solution. The price of a lotion is at least 200 silver coins. 200 silver coins is not a small amount for Zhang Ruochen. Moreover, he cultivated the 9 Heavens Ming Emperor Sutra, and if he wanted to break through the middle stage of the yellow pole realm, a marrow washing liquid was obviously not enough. There it is. Quote. Zhang Ruochen slapped his forehead and secretly scolded himself for being too stupid. You must know that in his previous life, he was the son of Emperor Ming, and he had read a lot of high-grade exercises and martial arts, all of which were memorized in his mind, and he could sell them at sky-high prices if he took out a book of cultivation exercises and martial arts. The 9 Heavens Ming Emperor Sutra and the Dragon Elephant Panruo Fist are all divine skill treasure classics level things in the entire Kunlun realm, so it is naturally impossible to take them out and sell them. In his memory, there were some other low-grade exercises and martial arts, and if he took out a copy at random, it could also cause quite a stir in Yunwu County. Zhang Ruochen immediately found paper and pen and ink, and silently wrote down a set of spirit-level martial arts, Tianqin sword technique. Sword technique is already the lowest grade martial art in Zhang Ruochen's memory. Spiritual level low grade. The martial arts of the lower grade of the spirit level should be regarded as the top martial arts in the Yunwu County Kingdom, even if it is a big family like the Lin family. The most powerful martial art is estimated to be the lower grade of the spirit level, and there are only 1 or 2 sets at most, as the mastery of the Zhen clan. Quote. You must know that in Yunwu County, many martial artists do not have the opportunity to practice martial arts. Even if it is a human level inferior martial art, it is a great treasure for them. The lowest Priced human. Level low. Grade martial arts are also sold for at least 300 silver coins, and some of these powerful human, level low, grade martial arts can even be sold for more than 1,000 silver coins, and ordinary martial arts casual cultivators can't afford it at all. Some martial artists even do not hesitate to fight with others in order to compete for a level inferior martial arts. As for the spirit, level low, grade martial arts, once they are taken out and sold, even the heads of those big families will be tempted and will buy the martial arts back at all costs. With one more spirit, level martial arts, the family's heritage will increase a lot. After writing down the cultivation method of the Tianqin sword technique, Zhang Ruochen was on the paper again draw a small picture of each swordsmanship. Zhang Ruochen condensed all the few true qi in his body into the tip of the pen, and condensed all the true qi and martial arts artistic conception into the sword move pattern. Exhausting the true qi in the body is just a matter of drawing a picture. Ruochen immediately sat up, ran the 9 Heavens Ming Emperor Sutra, cultivated. It took half a day to complete all the 12 moves of the Tianqin sword technique. Although his cultivation is no longer there, his eyesight is still there, and his understanding of martial arts is still there, and every sword move he draws is very exquisite, no different from the sword moves drawn in the original book of Tianqin sword technique. With my current understanding of martial arts, drawing a spirit level martial art is already the limit. If I were to draw a catalogue of the martial arts of the mid-grade spirit level, I would probably only be able to draw 1/3 of the artistic conception of the mid-grade martial arts of the spirit level. Quote. Martial arts cheats are not just rubbing and copying casually. Even if ordinary people write down the mantra and sword move schema of the Tianqin sword technique, it is only in vain, and even if they successfully cultivate the sword technique, it is impossible to reach the power of the spirit level lower grade sword technique. Zhang Ruochen was a strong man in the great perfection of the heavenly extreme realm in his last life, and he could only draw the charm of the swordsmanship of the lower grade of the spirit level, and no matter how high level the martial arts were, he couldn't draw all the charm. The swordsmanship of the lower grade of the spirit level should be able to sell for a good. Zhang Ruochen did not immediately take the Tianqin sword technique to Wuxi, but waited until it was dark before heading in the direction of the palace gate. His Royal Highness the 9th Prince, are you going to leave the palace so late? Quote. The 2 guards guarding the palace gate said. The 2 guards also knew that the 9th Prince and concubine Lin had been driven to live in the side hall, which meant that they had lost their position in the palace. So they didn't have a respectful look on their faces, and they didn't even salute Zhang Ruochen. Zhang Ruochen was not the cowardly Zhang Ruochen he used to be. His eyes stared sharply at the 2 guards, he puffed up his chest slightly, and said, this prince is going to the Lin mansion to find cousin Lu Shan, why don't you open the palace gate immediately? Quote. After all, Zhang Ruochen is the king and grandson, and the 2 guards naturally won't really offend him. They opened the palace door and watched Zhang Ruochen leave. Hard-hearted. If he hadn't been the son of the king of Yunwu County, he would have died many times. Quote. One of the guards snorted coldly. It is said that the genius woman of the Lin family, Lin Lucian, is about to get engaged to the 7th prince, and he is really stupid if he still doesn't give up. Another janissary said disdainfully. Ruochen naturally didn't really go to Lin Lucian, but just found such an excuse to leave palace without being suspected. Walking out of the palace, Zhang Ruochen took out a wide black cloak from the space-time crystal, wrapped his entire body in the cloak, and walked into the brightly lit royal city. In the dark, no one could see his face at all. It didn't take long for Zhang Ruochen to walk through the bustling streets and enter. The other places in the royal city can only be regarded as vulgar markets. The area occupied by Wu City is only 1/10 the size of the entire royal city, but it is the most prosperous place in Yunwu County. Wu City is divided into 5 areas: Dan City, Qi City, Animal Market, New City, and Central Auction House. To a certain extent, Wu City determines the rise and fall of the entire Yunwu County, so the county is very strict with the management of Wu City. Every entrance to the martial city is handled by a sergeant, and only the warriors, or people of noble status, are eligible to enter the martial city. Walking into Wuxi, Zhang Ruochen walked straight to the central auction hall. Spirit-level low-grade martial arts are not something that ordinary shops can eat, and only by taking them to the central auction hall and auctioning them to those big families can the value of martial arts be maximized. As soon as Zhang Ruochen walked into the auction hall, a neatly dressed and pretty maid greeted her, and when she saw Zhang Ruochen's mysterious outfit, she was not surprised at all, and said very politely, "Sir, what help do you need?" "I want to see the archdeacon of your central auction house." Zhang Ruochen changed his voice slightly, and it looked quite dull, sounding like a middle-aged man in his 30s or 40s. "Who the hell is this?" As soon as he opened his mouth, he wanted to see the archdeacon, which seemed to be a big deal. Slave maid will go and tell the archdeacon now, but the archdeacon is usually very to receive VIP customers, so he may not have time to come out to meet you. Wait a. Immediately after saying this, the maid went through a door and went to address the archdeacon. Zhang Ruochen was not in a hurry, just stood in the lobby and waited quietly. It didn't take long for the maid to lead a chubby old man in a luxurious robe to come out, pointing in the direction of Zhang Ruochen and saying, "Archdeacon, that's the person." The archdeacon glanced at Zhang Ruochen in a black cloak from a distance, his gaze fixed on Zhang Ruochen's feet, and his old eyes narrowed slightly, flashing a trace of essence. The boots worn by Zhang Ruochen are called unicorn inlaid gold boots, and only people in the palace are qualified to wear such boots. Zhang Ruochen naturally deliberately exposed his boots. After all, what he wanted to auction was a spirit-level swordsmanship, and it was inevitable that he would not be coveted. With his current martial arts cultivation, he can't keep the swordsmanship of the lower grade of the spirit level at all, but if people know that he is a big man in the palace, then it is estimated that there are not many people who dare to fight his idea. In the case that his strength is not strong enough, he can only pretend that he is very powerful, and it is still necessary to scare people. It's not easy. The archdeacon's attitude towards Zhang Ruochen immediately became respectful, and he regarded Zhang Ruochen as a big man in the palace, walked up to Zhang Ruochen and whispered, "My lord, please come here." In order to deter the other party, Zhang Ruochen put his hands behind his back, showed full bearing, and nodded lightly. Those warriors in the lobby, seeing that the archdeacon actually showed such an attitude, were secretly speculating in their hearts. It seemed that there was a great big man in the central auction hall. Ascending to the third floor of the central auction hall, Zhang Ruochen sat at the top steadily, took the teacup handed over by the maid, and said in a superior tone, "I have a treasure here, I want to put it in the central auction house for auction, call your top appraiser over, and help me appraise it." Seeing Zhang Ruochen's bearing, the archdeacon was even more sure that the other party was an important person in the palace, and immediately ordered someone to ask for an appraiser. A moment later, an old man with gray hair walked in. The old man, who looked 70 or 80 years old, had a pair of eyes that were bright, glanced at Zhang Ruochen, and found that he couldn't see through the other party's cultivation, and he couldn't help but be shocked. The old man immediately bowed respectfully to Zhang Ruochen. "The old man is the chief appraiser of the central auction house. I don't know where the things that the adults want to auction are." If you can't see through the other party's cultivation, there are only three situations. First, the opponent's martial arts cultivation is higher than his. Second, the other party's cultivation is much better than his cultivation. For example, a martial artist who cultivates human-level exercises generally can't see through the cultivation of a martial artist who cultivates spirit-level exercises, and can only roughly guess the opponent's cultivation from some details in the aura on display. Of course, if the level of the exercises is about the same, those with high cultivation can still see through the martial arts cultivation of those with low cultivation. Third, the other party has a treasure hidden in his cultivation. The second and third situations were not common, so the old man instinctively thought that it was the first case, thinking that Zhang Ruochen's cultivation was above him, so he immediately saluted Zhang Ruochen respectfully. You must know that Zhang Ruochen is cultivating the 9 Heavens Ming Emperor Sutra. What a profound exercise, unless he deliberately shows the meridians in his body. Otherwise, it is estimated that few people in the entire Yunwu County will be able to see through his martial arts cultivation. Besides, Zhang Ruochen's previous life was originally a powerhouse of the great perfection of the heavenly extreme realm, although he was reborn in the body of an ordinary person, but the understanding of martial arts and the spirit carried by the soul were no different from the martial artists of the great perfection of the heavenly extreme realm. If you want to see through his cultivation, unless the opponent's martial arts realm is above the great perfection of the heavenly extreme realm. Zhang Ruochen's hand reached into his sleeve, touched the space, time spar, and his palm directly entered the inner space of the space, time spar, took out the mantra of the Tianqin sword technique, and handed it to the gray-haired old man. What I'm going to auction is this volume of swordsmanship of the lower grade of the spirit level. Zhang Ruochen said lightly. As soon as the chief appraiser received the mantra of the Tianqin sword technique, he was slightly shocked when he heard Zhang Ruochen's words. I even want to auction the swordsmanship of the lower grade of the spirit level. Chief appraiser immediately unfolded the rolled sheets of paper and studied them. The archdeacon who was standing on the side also immediately walked over and looked up the mantra of the Tianqin sword technique. Together, chief appraiser and archdeacon, both martial arts masters, quickly identified the results. Nodded at the same time. It's indeed a mantra for the swordsmanship of the lower grade of the spirit level. I don't know how many sword moves are in the hands of adults. The archdeacon asked. Even if the archdeacon and the chief appraiser forcibly memorized the mantra of the Tianqin sword technique, if there was no sword move to match it, then the mantra would be useless. Zhang Ruochen said. The whole set of swordsmanship, a total of 12 moves. The original book of the sword technique has been lost, and the heavenly heart sword technique in my hand is a sword move schema drawn by a strong man of the heavenly extreme realm, and there is no difference between it and the original book of the sword technique. The chief appraiser pondered for a moment and said, in that case, then set the starting price of the heavenly heart sword technique at 200,000 silver coins. However, there is a premise. After the auction is successful, the buyer will review the sword moves and mantras of the Tianqin sword technique, and if it is found that it is not a sword technique of the lower grade of the spirit level, the auction result will not be counted. Zhang Ruochen nodded and said, everything is done according to the rules of the auction. The auction of Tianqin sword technique is tonight, and it has become the finale item of the Zongpin auction tonight. Before the auction began, the central auction house immediately spread the news to the major families in the royal city. The important people of the major families rushed to Wu with huge sums of money. The city wants to buy a complete set of spirit, level low, grade swordsmanship. Zhang Ruochen does not care about the auction process, only the result of the auction. About 2 hours passed, the auction ended, and the results of the auction came out. In the competition between the major families, the price of the Tianqin sword technique was raised to 1.24 million silver coins, and it was finally taken by the head of the Lin family. It's actually the Lin family. Zhang Ruochen was also slightly surprised when he heard this. It didn't take long for Lin Fengxian, the head of the Lin family, Linda, an uncle of the Lin family, and Lin Lucian, one of the 4 young beauties of Yunwu County, to walk in from outside. The Lin family master, this lord is the master of the heavenly heart sword technique. With a smile on his face, the archdeacon pointed towards Zhang Ruochen, who was sitting at the top. Lin Fengxian's gaze stayed on the pair of unicorn-inlaid golden boots on Zhang Ruochen's feet for a moment, nodded lightly, arched his hand slightly, and said, Lin Fengxian, the head of the Sha Lin family, I don't know what to call the adult. Before coming in, Lin Fengxian had heard the archdeacon describe this mysterious person, and knew that the other party had a great background, and it was likely to be a big man in the palace. Therefore, after Lin Feng walked in first, he took the initiative to lower his posture as the head of the Lin family. Seeing Lin Fengxian and Lin Lucian, Zhang Ruochen became more cautious in case he was recognized by them. Zhang Ruochen coughed dryly twice, and his voice became muffled. You don't need to know my name. This is the mantra and sword move schema of the Tianxin sword technique, so take it over and review it by the Lin family master. Quote. As he spoke, Zhang Ruochen took out the mantra and sword move schema from his sleeve and put it on the table. Lin Fengxian did not review the mantra of the Tianxin sword technique, and he believed that the central auction house had already tested the mantra before the auction. He unfolded the sword move pattern of Tianxin sword technique, and saw 12 villain drawings depicted on the paper. If ordinary people looked at the 12 pictures, they couldn't see anything special at all, but when Lin Fengxian's gaze fell on the paper, the 12 villains holding long swords seemed to come to life, standing on the paper and dancing swordsmanship. Each sword technique is exquisite, containing a broad and profound martial arts artistic conception. Even if you just learn one of the moves, you will be used endlessly. This set of swordsmanship is definitely at the top level among the martial arts of the lower grade of the spirit level, and it is simply worth buying. Quote. Lin Fengxian's heart was extremely excited. That's right. It is indeed a sword technique of the lower grade of the spirit level, and it is also a sword move pattern drawn by a powerful heavenly extreme realm predecessor. Quote. Lin Fengxian had a happy look on his face, and immediately put away the mantra and sword move pattern of the Tianxin sword technique. That's great. Buying this kind of spirit level inferior swordsmanship, the Lin family's heritage can. The archdeacon walked up to Zhang Ruochen and said, My lord, the heavenly heart sword technique auctioned a total of 1.22 million silver coins, deducting the 12,000 silver coins paid to the auction house, a total of 1,228,000 silver coins. I don't know if the adults are ready to exchange all of them for spirit crystals. Or is it exchanged for blood pills? Or is it deposited in Wuxi Chenjuang? When ordinary people trade, they use copper, silver, and gold coins. However, the transactions between martial artists are generally made using blood pills or spirit crystals. Zhang Ruochen said, 1,200,000 silver coins will be deposited in the Wuxi Qian village, 20,000 silver coins will be exchanged for spirit crystals, and the remaining 8,000 silver coins will be withdrawn directly to me. Half an hour later, the archdeacon handed Zhang Ruochen a card made of yellow spar and said, My lord, this is a 3-star noble card from Wuxi Chenjuang, and 1.2 million silver coins have been deposited into the card. If you have a 3-star noble card, you will have a fortune of more than 1 million credits. Afterwards, the archdeacon handed Zhang Ruochen the burden containing 20 spirit crystals and 8,000 silver coins. Zhang Ruochen didn't say a word, lifted his burden, and walked towards the outside of the central auction hall. This man's back is so familiar. Lin Qixin stared at the dark shadow figure that was gradually walking away, and a familiar feeling appeared in her heart. Lin Fengxian said, I also have a somewhat familiar feeling, I should have seen it in the palace. This person is not simple, and my real identity is probably a little scary. Lin Qixin asked curiously, Dad, why do you say that? Lin Fengxian said with a solemn face, the ink of the Tianxin sword technique is not dry, which means that it is a sword move schema that was only drawn today. And the person who drew the heavenly heart sword technique must be a powerhouse of the heavenly extreme realm. In other words, either he is the powerhouse of the heavenly extreme realm, then there is a powerhouse of the heavenly extreme realm behind him. In either case, this person is not something we can provoke. Powerhouse of the heavenly extreme realm. Lin Lucian was shocked and said, even if it seems that he has not yet broken through to the heavenly extreme realm. Lin Fengxian nodded, with a look of yearning in his eyes. The 4 realms of martial arts, the Yellow Pole realm, the Zon Pole realm, the Earth Pole realm, and the Heavenly Pole realm. Heavenly Extreme Realm represents the ultimate realm of martial arts, which can be called a martial arts myth. Once you step into the Heavenly Extreme Realm, you can fly off the ground, and you can resist an army of 100,000 alone, which is a real powerhouse. After surpassing the heavenly extreme realm, it is beyond the scope of martial arts, and even beyond the mortal body of the flesh, and the various means used are beyond the imagination of ordinary martial artists. Lin Yushan said, there shouldn't be a few powerhouses in the heavenly extreme realm in the palace. If you go to investigate, maybe you can find out who it is. Feng Xian's face turned grim, and he said, don't do such a stupid thing. If you anger that heavenly extreme realm powerhouse, our entire Lin family will have to pay a terrible price. Lin Lushan's eyes flashed with wisdom, and she said, Dad, I have a doubt. Since he is a big man in the palace, there should be no shortage of silver coins. Why did he still take out the spirit-level sword technique for auction? Lin Fengxian pondered for a moment and said, the 8 spirit-level martial arts of the royal clan are all famous combat skills, and there is no Tianxin sword technique among them. We'd better not investigate this matter. The powerhouse of the heavenly extreme realm, it's not our Lin family that can be offended. Shanur, you have the Sword Dao Divine Martial Mark, and you are the best candidate to cultivate the Heavenly Heart Sword technique. After you go back, you will retreat and practice the Heavenly Heart Sword technique. If you can successfully cultivate the first sword technique within 3 months, you will definitely be able to shine among the young talents of the prince's relatives when the year is assessed at the end of the year. Leaving the central auction hall, Zhang Ruochen walked out of Wuxi, walked around the royal city, found a hidden place, took off the black cloak and unicorn gold inlaid boots on his body, put them in the space-time crystal, and put on a pair of ordinary cloth shoes. An outfit, he looks like an ordinary young. No one should recognize me as the mysterious person who auctioned the Heavenly Heart Sword technique just now. Zhang Ruochen carried a package containing spirit crystals and silver coins, walked into the market again, and began to buy the items he needed. First, he spent 4,000 silver coins and bought 20 portions of the marrow wash. Subsequently, he spent another 1,000 silver coins to buy 200 blood pills. With his current cultivation, it would be enough to take a first-grade blood pill. 200 first-grade blood pills were enough for him to take for half a year. Then, he purchased 2 other medicines to improve his cultivation, refining body powder, and qi-gathering pill. The price of these 2 medicines was very expensive, and even those genius disciples in the big family could not afford such treasures in the early days of the Yellow Extreme Realm. For Zhang Ruochen, who has deep pockets, as long as he can quickly improve his cultivation, it is worth spending more silver coins. The end, he spent 5 spirit crystals and purchased 5 copies of the refining body powder. Spent 10 spirit crystals and bought 10 qi-gathering pills. In addition, he spent 500 silver coins to buy the bone break cream for Yunar. Not counting the 1.2 million silver coins stored in Wuxi Chenjuang, there were still 5 spirit crystals and 2,500 silver coins left on his body. After putting all the purchased pills into the space-time spar, Zhang Ruochen returned to the palace again. Sister Yunar, this is the muscle and bone intermittent cream I bought for you. It will definitely make your arm get better soon. Zhang Ruochen took out a delicate ebony box and handed it to Yunar. Yunar was slightly shocked for a moment, and with some panic, she took the ebony box and opened it. Inside the box, a fragrant medicinal smell immediately emanated. Her heart was both grateful and surprised, and she asked, Your Royal Highness the 9th Prince, where did you get the silver to buy the bone break cream? You know, the worst bone and bone intermittent ointment will also sell for 200 silver coins. Some of the better ones even sell for 500 silver coins. Zhang Ruochen smiled and said, Sister Yunar, I have some secrets that I can't tell you for the time being. I hope you can keep them for me too. Yunar stared at Zhang Ruochen deeply, nodded, and said in a low voice, Can I tell concubine Lin? Not yet. Zhang Ruochen said. All right, I promise you. Yunar squeezed the ebony box in her hand tightly, feeling a little relieved in her heart. Since His Royal Highness the 9th Prince was able to spend hundreds of silver coins on her, buying musculoskeletal intermittent cream is definitely a great opportunity. Maybe His Royal Highness the 9th Prince will be able to become a martial arts powerhouse in the future. Zhang Ruochen asked, There is one thing that I have never been able to understand, and I hope that Sister Yunar can tell me the truth. Since the mother is the sister of the head of the Lin family, why did the mother cut off the relationship with the Lin family? What happened 3 years ago? Yunar sighed and said, because His Royal Highness the Ninth Prince has always been weak and sickly, he can't be stimulated, so this matter has been concealed. Since His Royal Highness the Ninth Prince has now opened the Divine Martial Seal, then I'll tell you. You should still remember the first day of the Lin family, Lin Chanu. He is your cousin and the eldest son of the head of the Lin family. He is only 17 years old, and he cultivated to the great perfection of the Yellow Extreme Realm. However, just 3 years ago, Lin Chanu offended another even more amazing genius, and was broken by that genius and imprisoned in a prison. How so? Zhang Ruochen said. The Lin family is also a first-line big family in Yunwu County. Who dares to put the Lin family's first day in prison? Could it be that the genius Lin Chanu offended has a very remarkable background? Yunar nodded and said, that's right. Lin Chanu offended the most dazzling Tianzhao of Yunwu County, His Royal Highness the Seventh Prince. Those other geniuses, in front of His Royal Highness the Seventh Prince, will immediately dim. I see. Zhang Ruochen nodded, and finally understood. Yunar continued. After Lin Chanu was imprisoned in the prison, the head of the Lin family immediately rushed to the palace to beg concubine Lin, and he hoped that concubine Lin would come forward and intercede with the king of the county. As long as Lin Chanu's life can be spared, the Lin family can pay any price. Concubine Lin naturally went to see the king of the county immediately, but was stopped by the queen. It was because of this incident that concubine Lin and the queen had a dispute, and the queen was angry, so she ordered someone to scold concubine Lin with 30 sticks. By the time the 30 beatings were over, concubine Lin was already covered in blood and was dying. Bang! Zhang Ruochen slammed his palm on the pillar, clenched his teeth, and said, this matter, the king of Yunwu County actually doesn't care about it. Yunar said, you must know that His Royal Highness the Seventh Prince is the most talented of the 9 sons of the county king, and he is deeply loved by the county king, and he has high hopes for him. The king of Yunwu County found out the truth, and the whole incident was indeed Lin Chanu's fault, and His Royal Highness the Seventh Prince was almost killed by Lin Chanu. Because of this incident, the king of Yunwu County was furious. He felt that it was obviously Lin Chanu who made a big mistake, and concubine Lin still wanted to intercede for him, which was simply unreasonable. The king of Yunwu County originally loved concubine Lin very much, but after this incident, he was much colder to concubine Lin. Yunar continued. Concubine Lin's grievances are not understood by the Lin family. They didn't dare to offend the queen and the seventh prince, so they put all the faults on concubine Lin. They felt that it was precisely because concubine Lin did not go to intercede with the king of the county that the Lin family lost a supreme genius. Since then, the Lin family has completely drawn a line with concubine Lin, and no longer recognizes concubine Lin as the Lin family. Zhang Ruochen took a deep breath, feeling a little bitter in his heart, feeling unfair for concubine Lin. He clenched his fist tightly, hit the pillar with a punch, and said in a deep voice, "Strength. In this world, without great power, there is no way to gain a foothold, and there is no fair treatment at all." Zhang Ruochen thought for a moment, and then asked, Lin Chanu was executed? Nope. How could His Royal Highness the Seventh Prince let him go so easily? Yunar said, Lin Chanu was sentenced to palace punishment, turned into a eunuch, and was taken into slavery by His Royal Highness the Seventh Prince. Zhang Ruochen said, the first day of the Lin family, he became a eunuch and a slave of the enemy. For the Lin family, it is simply a great shame. Yunar frowned and said, but I can't understand it very much, since the Lin family has suffered such a great humiliation. Why does the head of the Lin family want to marry his daughter to the seventh prince? Zhang Ruochen said, this is very understandable. With the talent of the seventh prince, he will definitely inherit the throne in the future and become the lord of Yunwu County. If the Lin family wants to gain a foothold in Yunwu County, they must repair their relationship with the seventh prince. Marriage is the best way to go. Secondly, the first day of the Lin family, since he became a slave of the seventh prince. The relationship between the Lin family and the seventh prince is estimated to be not as hostile as we imagined. Perhaps, the marriage between Lin Lucian and the seventh prince was facilitated by Lin Chanu on the first day of the Lin family. Yunar's eyes stared straight at Zhang Ruochen, and she couldn't believe that His Royal Highness the ninth prince was able to analyze such a head, not at all like the cowardly young man he used to be, but instead gave people a feeling of sophistication and wisdom. It seems that after opening the Shenwu seal, His Royal Highness the ninth prince has really changed completely. Yunar thought to herself, if concubine Lin knew that His Royal Highness the ninth prince had undergone such a big change, she would definitely be very pleased. Back in his room, Zhang Ruochen immediately entered the inner space of the space-time crystal. Start opening the second meridian now. Zhang Ruochen uncorked the small jade bottle and took a piece of marrow washing solution. Under the medicinal power of the marrow washing solution, the blood of the whole body seemed to boil. With the help of huge medicinal power, Zhang Ruochen immediately began to open up the second meridian according to the record on the Nine Heavens Ming Emperor Sutra. The more meridians that are opened up in the body, the faster the speed of absorbing the spiritual energy, and the faster the true qi in the body will run. More meridians in the body, the more powerful the cultivated martial body will naturally become, and in the same realm, it can burst out with more powerful combat power. With the help of his previous cultivation experience, Zhang Ruochen quickly opened up the second meridian, and the speed of the true qi in his body doubled. The qi pool has not expanded, it has not broken through the middle stage of the yellow pole realm, and it seems that one more meridian will have to be opened up. Zhang Ruochen took a blood pill, recovered his strength, rested for about an hour, and after reaching his best condition, he immediately took another dose of marrow washing liquid and began to open up the third meridian. Other monks, after opening up a new meridian, generally have to recuperate for a month to 3 months to increase the resilience and activity of the meridian before continuing to open up the next meridian. However, Zhang Ruochen couldn't wait for less than a month, and he was now going to open up the third meridian and hit the middle stage of the yellow extreme realm. In this way, the difficulty is not only doubled. I will definitely be able to do it, I will definitely be able to do it, and I will definitely hit the middle stage of the yellow extreme realm tonight. Zhang Ruochen held a spirit crystal in his hand, and while absorbing the spiritual energy in the spirit crystal, he mobilized all the true qi in his body, and suddenly rushed towards the third meridian. Boom! Zhang Ruochen's eyebrows made a muffled sound. The air pool, which was originally only the size of a basketball, immediately expanded tenfold, reaching the size of a water tank, like a 3-foot square pool. Now, Zhang Ruochen's air pool can really be called an air pool. This is the cultivation of the middle stage of the yellow extreme realm. Now, it can only be regarded as just entering the middle stage of the yellow extreme realm, and the true qi in the body has not increased much. Of course, I have room for improvement now, and if I cultivate the true qi in the qi pool to the fullest, the true qi in my body will increase tenfold. A sense of joy arose in Zhang Ruochen's heart, and his martial arts cultivation was finally a lot stronger. With each level of advancement, the capacity of the qi pool will increase, and it will naturally be able to hold more true qi. If you can't break through to the realm, then even if you cultivate for 10 years, the true qi in your body won't increase in any way. Because your qi pool is only that big, it can only hold so much true qi. Breaking through to the middle stage of the yellow extreme realm, the impurities in the flesh were transported out of the pores, like a layer of black slime, emitting a faint fishy smell. Zhang Ruochen immediately called a bucket of hot water, and after taking a bath, he changed into a new piece of clothing, and immediately returned to the inner space of the space-time crystal. He held a pen in his hand, and it was very smooth, turning into a humanoid pattern on the paper scroll. Then, with the memory in his mind, he drew 36 meridians on the human figure, each with a different route. There is only one thing in common. The 36 meridians, all of which converge to the qi pool in the center of the eyebrows. Zhang Ruochen flipped through the first layer of the Nine Heavens Ming Emperor Sutra, for the first time, and what he saw was such a meridian map, without any text explanation, and he relied entirely on himself to comprehend. The more advanced the cultivation technique, the more meridians are opened up in the body, and the faster the true qi can be transported. Human level low grade exercises can only open up 7 meridians. Quote. The Nine Heavens Ming Emperor Sutra records the running routes of 36 meridians, and each additional cultivation meridian makes the martial body 1 point stronger. If all the 36 meridians are opened up, how powerful will the martial body become? Quote. Word pole in the yellow pole realm represents the meaning of the limit of the meridians. Ruochen only cultivated 33 meridians in his previous life, and there were 3. With the martial body that opened up the 33 meridians in his previous life, he had already defeated the invincible opponents of his peers. Even today's strongest Empress Chi Yao is a step worse than him, only opening up 31 meridians. I have now opened up 3 meridians, which belong to the middle stage of the yellow extreme realm, and if I want to break through to the late stage of the yellow extreme realm, I must at least open up 3 more meridians. Zhang Ruochen rolled up the meridian diagram and put it on the stone platform. If you want to attack the late stage of the yellow extreme realm, you must first cultivate the true qi in the qi pool. If you follow the rules of cultivation, even with the help of the spiritual energy of the spirit crystal, it will take a month and a half of cultivation to allow the true qi to fill the whole body and overflow the qi pool. Zhang Ruochen couldn't wait that long, so he decided to take the qi gathering pill. A qi gathering pill is worth 1,000 silver coins, which is simply a rare treasure for ordinary martial artists. Even those young children of medium-sized families would have a hard time getting a qi gathering pill. Zhang Ruochen bought 10 pieces at one time, intending to use them to quickly improve his cultivation. The qi gathering pill, only the size of a pearl, has a faint fragrance, and wisps of aura can be seen flowing on the surface of the pill with the naked eye. Sheet. Ruochen swallowed the qi gathering pill into his mouth. A moment later, with a boom, the qi gathering pill exploded in his body, turning into a violent ball of dan qi, jumping up and down in Zhang Ruochen's body. The 3 meridians absorb the dan qi at the fastest speed, run in the body for a large week, and the dan qi is converted into true qi and stored in the qi pool. Although Zhang Ruochen had tried his best to absorb the dan qi, there were still 70% of the dan qi lost from the pores. He had only absorbed the 3% dan qi of a qi gathering pill. It took him a whole day to completely transform that sancheng dan qi into his true qi. After refining these 3% of dan qi, the amount of true qi in the qi pool increased by 2 times. I have only opened up 3 meridians, and the transformation speed of true qi is still too slow, and 70% of the dan qi has been wasted. If a martial artist of the yellow extreme realm is a small pole and takes the qi gathering pill, he will be able to completely transform the qi gathering pill's dan qi into his true qi, and he will not waste a single trace of it. No matter. As long as you can improve your cultivation quickly, no matter how much silver you waste, it's worth wasting. With the medicinal power of the qi gathering pill, I can refine 4 more pieces, and I will be able to cultivate the true qi in the qi pool to the fullest. Fortunately, Zhang Ruochen now has silver coins, so he doesn't have to worry about money. Otherwise, the qi gathering pill of 1,000 silver coins would make him feel distressed every time he took it. Didn't continue to take the second qi gathering pill, stopped cultivating, walked out of space of the space-time crystal, and returned to the room. He had been cultivating inside the space-time crystal for more than a day, and only half a day had passed outside. At this moment, it is noon. Zhang Ruochen didn't alarm Yuner and concubine Lin, so he brought a bucket of hot water and put it in the room. He didn't want to take a bath, but to take a medicinal bath. A martial artist is not only to cultivate true qi, but also to temper his body. Zhang Ruochen's body is a little weak compared to his peers, and if he wants to make his body strong in a few months, he must not only practice boxing, but also take a medicinal bath. Zhang Ruochen bought a total of 5 copies of body refining powder, each of which was worth 1,000 silver coins. Take out one of the pieces and place them in the barrel. In the barrel, there was an immediate whoosh sound, and white smoke came out of the barrel. Zhang Ruochen sat cross-legged in the barrel, the top of his head flooded with potions. The potion was so hot that it was like boiling water, bubbles emerging. A sharp pain came from the surface of the skin, and then the pain burrowed into the eventually, the pain entered the bone marrow and the 5 organs. All over the body, hot pain. If it were another warrior, he would definitely not be able to endure this pain and would jump out of the barrel. Zhang Ruochen was like a rock, sitting cross-legged at the bottom of the barrel, without any change in expression, silently enduring the pain from the flesh. Only by enduring hardships can we become a superior person.